ahead to be sharing my screen. Once you can see my screen, you let me know. Let me just share. Okay, sharing screen one. Okay. Can you see my screen from your end? If you can see my screen, please just signify I can see your screen. Okay. Avila, she can see my screen. Okay. So today now, part of our what we'll be doing today, we'll be creating a secure network traffic in our environment to see how our traffic can be secured and everything will work in accordance to best practice. So firstly, we're going to be creating a virtual machine. For those of us that we know in the class, in our first class where we created virtual machine, this is just a plus for you. So you will learn how to create a virtual machine. So we'll see how we can create secure traffic to the virtual machine. So we'll just search for virtual machine, then it opens. So a virtual machine is just like your physical PC, but in a virtual format. Your physical PC, you can touch it. That's a physical machine. A virtual machine is more or less like a machine that you can connect to, but you cannot feel or touch. So we'll be creating a virtual machine to test secure network traffic. And by the grace of God, we are going to understand how we can create secure network traffic in our environment. So let's just wait. Seems network is very good today because there have been rain. So I don't know if it's going to allow me, but never, let's just try. Let me refresh this page. Okay. So we'll just wait for it to load. Let me go back to home again. Let me click on virtual machines. Let me check the speed of my internet. Okay. Finally, it has loaded. So we'll be creating a virtual machine to test secure network traffic. So the first thing I'm going to do is I will click on create, then I will select virtual machine because I want to create a new virtual machine that we are going to use for this demonstration. I'll click on virtual machine. So I'll wait for it to load. So it will load and give us the page of the settings for a virtual machine. So first thing first, you need to have a subscription. You need to have a subscription. You need to have a subscription. Then you select a resource group. Then you select a resource group. Okay. Then you select a resource group. So I'll just select one of the resource group that I have here. You click create new here, creating the resource group alongside creating the resource. So we'll just scroll down. Then we're going to give our virtual machine a name. So the name the name I suggest we give our virtual machine. We can just give the virtual machine.
So it's not showing.
Okay. Can you see it now? Can you see my screen now? Is it showing now?
I can see it now.
I see your screen.
Okay. Okay, no problem. So I'll just give the virtual machine a name. So can somebody suggest the name we give the virtual machine? We just want to use this virtual machine to test secure network connection. Can somebody help me with a name? You can drop it on the chat, or you can just unmute and just say the name that you want us to give the virtual machine. Anybody? Okay. So I suggest you can just give the virtual machine. Okay. Thought somebody was typing before. So we can just give the virtual machine. Okay, you have virtual machine. YAF. Okay, YAF virtual machine. So if in creating a virtual machine, the it doesn't allow spaces. So I need to bring them together so that it will allow it. So I'll just bring it closer. So that's what we need to take note of. So if you are creating a VM and maybe you want to create YAF space, virtual space machine, it will not allow it. It will not allow it. So they have to be together. So most times, maybe what you can do is you capitalize the first words so that if somebody is trying to read it, it will be easier for the person to use the first words to identify it. Like this one now is YAF virtual machine. So the location, best thing, choose the location that is closest to you. So for availability zone, I'm going to be saying no infrastructure redundancy required. Why for the operating system, I'm going to specify Windows Server operating system. For the security type, I'll leave it to standard. So operating system, it's automatically picked Ubuntu server, but I don't want to create an Ubuntu virtual machine. So I'll just collapse this VM here and select Windows Server 2019, which is the VM I want to create. Then for memory allocation, the size now, this is what determines the specification of the virtual machine that you want to create. So I don't want to use a 4 gig RAM virtual machine. Let me collapse so that I can select other sizes. So I rather go for D2X V3. Let me go for something bigger that will give me more better feature. So let me just go for 8 gig RAM instead of 4 gig RAM. So I'll just go for 8 gig RAM. Then for hibernation, I can decide to enable hibernation or leave it on check. So if you enable hibernation now, just like the way if you are going out, if hibernation is enabled on your system, once you hibernate, once you get back, you can continue from where you stop and it will not drain the battery of your system. So you can also hibernate your virtual machine if you enable hibernation. So we'll just we'll put an administrator username here. So the administrator username now I can call it, let me say YAF admin. So this is the main admin. It's more or less like if you are setting up your system at the beginning, after loading the OS, it gets to a stage where it will ask you for username. So just like a virtual machine, you are going to also specify the local admin username. I will just give it a password. I will say the password will be, let me just say, then I'll repeat the same thing. So this is the virtual machine now. Then for inbound ports, for public inbound ports, I'm going to say none. Remember, the whole essence of this course is to create secure network traffic to your network resources. So now as it is, we want to create a secure network traffic, meaning that we are not going to allow all public inbound ports. Public inbound ports will be none. Remember the last time when we were creating key vault, we allowed all network. So in this case, for virtual machine, for public inbound points, we are saying none because we want to create a secure network traffic. So as time goes on the class, I'm going to explain. But let's note that in creating this virtual machine on the basic, because we want to create a secure network traffic, we set public inbound port to none. If we say allow specific ports, that means we will now select the specified port that we want. But since we set it to none, we are going to see how we can now enable secure network traffic. So let's just note that in the public inbound port, it was set to none. So we'll go next to DIX. So for DIX, we are going to change this from SSD to HDD. So the thing is that if I use SSD consumes more, will consume more of my resource, like the money in the subscription. So for that, I'm going to use HDD. So for SSD, if you are in a production environment and probably they want the system to have high like the processing should be very fast and it shouldn't drag at any point, you can use SSD. But this is just a lab environment. That is why I'm using standard HDD. So we'll just leave the OS disk to be 128 gig. Just like your Windows system, if you go to this PC on File Explorer, you are going to see your OS disk. So just like the way you have OS disk on your local system, in a virtual machine also, you need to create a disk that will house the operating system. And that disk now is 127 gig HDD. So we just come down. So I think that's all. If we are to add an external disk, now maybe we want to add an external disk to this virtual machine, we can just say create or attach a new disk. If for instance now we have an existing disk that we have before, you can just click on this to attach it. This attach an existing disk is more or less like on your system. Maybe you have an external hard disk that has your movies that you watch, and you want to copy movies from the external hard disk to your system. You need to connect the external hard disk to your system. Once you connect it, you have access to your movies. Then from there, you copy the ones you want to copy to your system. So same thing happens to virtual machine also. If you have an existing virtual disk, virtual machine now is virtual. It's not physical. The one you connect to your system is a physical disk that you can see. But the one you connect to a virtual machine is a virtual disk. So that virtual disk now, after creating it in Microsoft Azure, you can attach it to your virtual machine so that you'll be able to access the content on that disk. So the next thing we'll go to networking. So for networking now, that's where we are going to disable network security group. So we are disabling network security group because what we are going to actually use for secure network traffic is network security group. So for the setting here, I will just say none. I'll say none. Then I'll leave the remaining settings as default. Then on management, I can just decide to enable login with Microsoft Entra ID. But in this case, I'll just leave it to the to default. For shutdown time, this shutdown time is very important. If maybe for instance tomorrow this VM is running and I don't shut it down, exactly 7 p.m. it will shut down. This is more or less like it's automated. Maybe for instance now you're working in an organization. Most times system administrators stay back till a particular period of time to shut down their server. So if you guys are using it, maybe you are working in a firm and all their machines are virtual servers. So if you know that 8 o'clock, nobody will be in the office, you can just set automatic shutdown to 8 o'clock. So once it's 8 o'clock, with or without your intervention, the virtual machine will shut down at that time. Here now, this is the admin that will receive the email. So at 6:50 or 6:45, if this VM is still on, I'll receive an email that auto shutdown will shut down your virtual machine at 7 p.m. If you want to extend the time, click. So it gives you opportunity to even extend, but you'll be notified before it shut down. So that's for management. Then if we go next now to monitoring. So for the monitoring part, I'm going to disable boot diagnostics. So boot diagnostics is enabled by default, but I'll disable it. I'll just disable boot diagnostics. So for boot diagnostics now, what it means is that it helps you get diagnostics when you are troubleshooting. Let's say your virtual machine is not starting and you want to know the root cause. You want to know why the virtual machine is not starting. Then with boot diagnostics enabled, you'll be able to check all the logs. So from the logs, you will know why it's not starting, at what point, where did it start, you'll be able to detect that. But in this case, we are just trying to disable it. So after all set and done, we'll go to advanced. So in the advanced page, it's just for you to install extensions. Maybe for instance now, extensions are like maybe features that you want to add to your virtual machines. Example of extensions that you can add to your virtual machines are Azure Monitor. So what this extension is more or less like if you are creating your virtual machine and you add an extension, it automatically installs on your virtual machine without you installing it. If, for instance, now you are provisioning a server in a local environment, after provisioning it, you have to download all the softwares that you want to install on the server. But if you are using a virtual machine and you want to add those extensions, all you just need to do is to, if I click on select extension now, it will show me a list of extensions that are available. So once I click on anyone, after provisioning the VM, automatically those extensions get installed. We can see here, agent for monitoring. If I select this tool now, what it means is that it will install on the server. What does this agent for monitoring do? It easily monitor your Windows Server metrics. So these are tools that I can install on the server, like an extension. Just like, okay, you can even install Dynatrace. It's this one is more or less like an agent that helps you monitor the functionality of your servers. You can also install Key Vault extension. So it's more or less like you are adding like an extra applications to the virtual machine in creating it. So I'll just click on close here. Then I'll go to tags. We are going to be talking about tags in our next class. So we'll just review and create. So for those that did not join our first class when we're creating a virtual machine, at least this is a class that you can use to leverage on creating a virtual machine. And if opportunity comes, you can always apply to get it. So somebody is asking, somebody's hands is raised. You can ask your question. Me.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Good evening again, Emmanuel. So I saw
Yeah,
something you were trying to add, adding Dynatrace. So for that Dynatrace
yeah.
resource, right? Is it the agent you are adding, or which is that?
It's the agent. It's the agent. You know that if you
Oh,
want to
okay.
use Dynatrace, maybe for instance now, you want to monitor your servers using Dynatrace,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
automatically you need to install an agent on the server. Then
yeah,
once the
yeah,
agent
yeah.
is on the server, that is what will establish communication between the server and Dynatrace. So that from
Definitely,
Dynatrace, you'll be able
definitely.
to see. So it's more or less like automated. You know that normally after creating the virtual machine, you can always like install the agent manually on your own. But with
Yes.
extensions, you don't need to install it manually. It will just install
Oh,
automatically on the machine.
oh, wow.
So that's
Okay.
it, bro.
I didn't know
Yeah,
that. That's
thank
why
you.
that's why we use Dynatrace. So I was just asking because I've never seen that
Okay.
before.
Okay, you guys use Dynatrace in your environments. Wow,
Yes, we
that
do.
means you guys are really spending money in monitoring. It's good actually because it helps you guys to be proactive and you guys
Yeah,
can easily monitor like as things is happening in your environment, you get the results. So it's
yeah.
good. Well
Thanks.
done. So Joy, you can go next.
Okay, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, ma.
What I wanted to ask, yeah, I wanted to ask something. I just want to confirm something basically. Um,
Yeah.
this virtual machine you're creating, is it just like as if you're creating like an online, you're setting up an online computer, or basically, or maybe you're just setting up your own. Will you say is that? You say like you are setting up your just the way your computer has all of these things you're creating in virtual machine with disks and everything. Will you say you're just setting up an online computer?
Yes, exactly. So a virtual machine, like you said, is more or less like an online computer that you can connect to it just using internet access. So let me give an example. You want to travel, you want to go to UK or Dubai, and you get to the airport,
Yeah.
they told you that, come, Joy, this your laptop is too heavy. Maybe you're using a gaming laptop and you only have the opportunity to carry luggage of 3 kg. Maybe the flight you want to use don't accept too much luggage. And your laptop alone, your gaming laptop is 1 kg. And you need clothes, you need some other things. It means that you need to drop your laptop in the airport. So when you come back, you pick it. You can't travel with it. because it's a physical laptop. But a virtual machine, as it says, all you just need to do, you don't even need to carry the laptop. Once you get to Dubai, all you need to do is to sign into Azure portal like this, the way I've signed into Azure portal. So you will be seeing the virtual machine online. All you need to do is to start the virtual machine. Once you start it, if you go to a cyber cafe there, you can just connect your virtual machine from the cyber cafe's laptop, or you even use your phone, because you can install remote desktop on your phone. Once remote desktop is on your phone, from your phone, you can easily connect to any virtual machine that you have. So that is why a virtual machine is a virtual machine. It's virtual, it's online. You can always have access to it from anywhere. I don't know if I answered your
Okay.
question.
Yes. Yes. So I actually have two more questions. I'm so sorry. And the second
Okay.
question, I wanted to ask, what was it I wanted to ask? Okay, yeah. What's the major reason why people prefer to use all of these servers and virtual machine than just get a laptop? Because I'm thinking maybe it's because of having to avoiding this maybe we are in a serious, I mean, in a season where probably the disk is filled up and having to go and buy another disk again. Is it all of those things? Because I feel like when you already have your own laptop, uh, and why
David.
I know there are some
Okay.
benefits. I know there are some benefits, but I just want to know like what's the major reason
Uh,
why actually businesses prefer to use servers than just do all on their laptops because it basically does almost
okay.
the same work. Oh yeah, basically. Yeah. So that's the second one.
Okay.
And
Okay,
do you
that's a
mind if
good
I say the
one.
third one or you
That's
want
a
to
good
answer it
one.
first?
No, let me just add this one so I don't forget. So basically, why
Okay, okay, all right.
organizations create virtual machines or they use cloud resources is because of there is no capital expenditure in using cloud resources. Let me give you an instance. You are a small medium enterprise. You're just wanting to start a business. If you want to, maybe you want to run applications that are heavy. It's not applications that you can just go to Ikeja and buy one laptop, one TB, and maybe six-core processor, 1 million, and be using it to run your application. Maybe your application cannot run on that kind of system. You need a server. And for you to provision a server, firstly, you need a space in your office, like a room where your server will be. So once your server is in that room, maybe you buy like two. One each server alone might cost you like, let's say 50 million, depending on the capacity. Maybe you are buying two, that is 100 million. Then after buying the servers, that's not all though. You will still buy AC because servers need cooling. You need to cool it. If you don't cool it, something might happen to the server. Some of the components in the server might get damaged. Then by the time you check all this capital expenditure, you will be cooling the server, you will be paying for electric bill, you will even pay people that will be maintaining the hardware. You know, sometimes organizations service their servers like once in a year, they will come and blow it. Some people even have staffs that do cable management for them. So those are all capital expenditure. And if you are a business that wants to start, imagine spending 100 million for just for just infrastructure. So why those kind of company will go to cloud is because it's pay as you go. It's consumption based. It's as you use that you pay. If that kind of person wants to go in cloud now, maybe the first month is going to spend 1 million or so. If you provision your VM now, anytime you stop your virtual machine, Microsoft will not bill you. They won't charge you for it. So the person may be spending 1 million naira per month, depending on the VMs the person creates. Then at the end of 1 year, he will know that he's spending 12 million. At least the person will be saving more money. But imagine starting and you just spend 100 million just like that. So what cloud help you do? In a way, it helps you save that capital expenditure. Because somebody that wants to start a business and that is looking for money, you are looking for money to start. But with cloud, you can start. All you just need to do, you can provision your virtual machine and scale your applications. Anytime there's high demand, you scale up. Anytime there's low demand, you scale down. But for setting up infrastructure, be there. Whether there's high demand to or there's low demand to, it will be there. But with cloud, you can control. You can scale up, when you know your customers have increased, and you know when your customers increase, you make more money. So even if you are paying the cloud service provider, you are still making profits. So the advantage of cloud is that it gives you an opportunity to pay for only what you use at that time. And it's very good for startups. People are just starting their businesses. So I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, yes, sir, you did, sir. Thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate.
Yeah.
The third question,
Oh,
because I don't know whether you'll be able to answer it, but then I noticed that in the place where I work, they use a data center, basically. They have their own server. And there's this problem they will always like experience. Sometimes the server will just go off, and for the whole day they won't even be able to work or something. So I don't know.
mm,
But there was time they I was talking to one of the workers and they were like, um, if I'm really good in what I'm doing, Sha, that they would like someone who will introduce them to culture. But that's not it, Sha. But what I'm just asking is that why do you think that always happens? Because most times they have this issue of server just going off.
uh,
And you have to
yeah.
go and
So,
be
so
fixing, whatever. Yeah.
yeah, my answer may not be like may not be like, how will I even call it? I'm just talking based on assumption. So basically, what makes server to maybe sometimes you won't be able to connect to it is if maybe the resources consumption is high. Because if, for instance, now your server is, maybe you are running loads on the servers that is bigger than it. Maybe the application running on it is consuming the hardware resources. Normally, there will be spike. And if there's spike, you will not be able to connect to the server. And that is why sometimes our physical data centers in Nigeria, they are unable to meet up with demands. Maybe the server that they give to your company to provision the applications, there are other applications, people that are using that same hardware. So automatically, at some point, the server might overwork, and before you know, it will begin to hang. But for Microsoft now, why Microsoft is reliable is because they have a lot of data centers. Like Microsoft has thousands of data centers. Like they have data centers everywhere. They have data center in different regions. Like as in they have really invested in data center. So with that, you won't have any issues of maybe one day you're trying to log in and the server is dragging. Even if your server is dragging, it's because you don't want to increase the capacity. But if you increase the capacity, it will not drag. So that's just my answer to that.
All right, sir. Thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you. So I want us to see something. We have created this virtual machine now. This virtual machine want to enable secure network traffic to this virtual machine. So firstly, I want us to try something so that we understand the essence of creating secure network traffic. If I click on connect, if you want to connect to this virtual machine, the first thing you check is the status. The status now says running, meaning that the virtual machine is running. Then after you have confirmed that the virtual machine is running, you now come here, click on connect. Once you click on connect, you can connect. If you click on connect now, you have two options, which is connect and connect via bastion. This bastion is more or less like you want to connect securely to the virtual machine over a secured over trusted layer security on the web. But as it is now, we'll just click on connect. So once we click on connect, it's going to show us a page where we can download an RDP file. So we are going to see what will happen. We're going to see what will happen so that we'll understand how to create secure network traffic. So now, RDP port is 3389. If you are preparing for an interview, you can be asked, what is the port for RDP? RDP stands for Remote Desktop Protocol. If you are taking a pen and you are writing, just write it down. RDP stands for Remote Desktop Protocol. And the port for RDP is 3389. 3389. RDP stands for what? Remote Desktop Protocol. And the port is 3389. So now we have options. It's either you copy the public IP address. If I copy the public IP address now, and on my system, I search for remote desktop. If I search for remote desktop and I click on remote desktop, desktop. It's going to show me, it's going to open, then it will ask me to specify the computer name. So once I click on this public IP now, remember, I copy the public IP from here and I click on connect. Let's see if it's going to connect. So once I click on connect, you will see it will just be rolling. It might not connect. Can somebody tell me why it's not connecting? Because we are trying to connect to the virtual machine via public port, and it's saying that remote desktop can't connect to this remote computer for one of these reasons. Can somebody tell me why? Anybody that can tell me why, the person is going to get a gift. Can anybody tell me why? Why I can't connect to this
Can I try?
to this virtual machine? Okay, you can try.
Can I try?
Yeah, try.
Because it is 2019. Server does not work.
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
But you
Sorry, I
tried, though.
missed.
That's a
Can I
good try.
try?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I missed
Okay,
the
try.
question again. I'm sorry.
Okay, the
Because
question is,
the ID is meant for public server.
you try. So, Armstrong, can you try?
So I wanted to get the question well so that I could.
So the
because
question is, I'm trying to connect to this virtual machine via remote desktop connection. If I click on connect now, it will throw me error that it can't connect. It can't connect to this virtual. It won't be able to connect me to the virtual machine. So it's initiating remote connection. It's even taking too long. Normally, it's supposed to connect and the virtual machine is running. So can you tell me why I'm unable to connect to the virtual machine? In the process of creating this VM, there was a part where I was explaining. I was saying that, okay, we are going to disable this. We are going to do this. So can somebody try to remember why
okay,
we
I
are unable
think
to connect?
it should be about. I want to say firewall now, but I think there was no. You didn't. You said there should be non-connection. Like I'm
You
struggling.
tried,
Struggling how I'm struggling how to put
but
it because I wanted
you
to
have not
say,
really gotten what I want.
yeah.
But you tried though, you tried. Joy, last
Public or
you're going to
private
be,
server.
you said what? What did you say, Joy?
Because you did not click on any network, click on any public network or private network. I don't know.
You're
Was it
trying. So
because
the
you didn't
answer,
assign an IP to it?
I assign an IP. This is the public IP. So do you know
That's
the reason why? Do you know the reason why? The reason
okay.
is because there is no public ports selected.
Oh, God. Yes.
Remember, I was saying that I'm going to disable public port because we want secure network traffic to the virtual machine. So now, even if I download this RDP file here, if I say keep, if I download it, if I click on open, if I try to open it, it will still not work. So it's still the same thing with connecting via the RDP directly. So if I open it now,
So that part is only 443, right?
and 3389,
Oh,
RDP is 3389.
uh,
443 is, I think it's HTTP or it's HTTP.
yeah. Yes.
Yes. So now we can see it's still not connecting. So we are going to solve this issue. So we are going to enable public ports, allow public ports for this virtual machine. So if I minimize this guy now, let's do something. So we are going to be creating a network security group. So what does a network security group do? With a network security group, you can specify inbound ports and outbound ports that you want to have access to your virtual machine. Remember, the essence of this lab is we are creating secure network traffic to our resources. So as this virtual machine is now, somebody from outside cannot just come and connect to it, even if he has a public IP, because we did not specify any public ports for this virtual machine. So now we'll just come to search here. We'll search for network security group. So we'll just search for network security group. So let me see, because it's supposed to come up. Let me scroll down. So we're going to see how we create network security group works like firewall, whereby from firewall you can allow, you can deny, you can do a lot of restrictions. So these are the NSGs that I have currently in my environment. So I'm going to be creating an NSG for that virtual machine. And we're going to see how we can attach this NSG to that virtual machine so that we can be able to remote to it using RDP. So I'm going to be creating a new NSG now. So the NSG, I'm going to be calling it. So once it pops up, we are going to give it a name. So we'll just be patient for it to load. So I like the way we tried. And I intentionally asked that question because I want us to understand what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to achieve secure network traffic to our virtual machine. We don't want anybody to just come and allow public access just like that. So everything has to be intentional. If you want public access to your virtual machine, you enable it. If you don't want public access to your virtual machine, you disable it. So we are going to be selecting our favorite resource group, which is YAF Cloud Computing. That's what we are selecting. Then the name, we'll give it YAF Server NSG. So when you are creating the resources in Microsoft Azure, it's good you name the resources with you end the name with what you are creating. Because now we are creating an NSG. So we just ended the name with NSG. So that if somebody sees it, the person can easily know that, oh, this is the network security group. So we don't confuse the person too much. And note the region. If, for instance, the virtual machine, I created it in East US, and I'm now creating the NSG in West Europe, you won't be able to associate the NSG to the virtual machine. So let's know that the region we are creating our resources is very important, because if maybe, for instance, you create a virtual machine in India, and you now want to create an NSG in Europe, there's no way you can use the NSG for that server because they are not in the same region. So those are the things we need to take note of. So for NSG, there's no much, just the name and the region. Then you click on review and create. So we'll just wait for it to create. Once it creates, then we will now configure, we will now attach the NSG to our virtual machine. So now validation has passed. Then I'll click on create. So for an NSG to work, you need to attach it to a network interface, just like your system. Some of us in our system, it has LAN port whereby you can connect LAN. So at that instance, that's your network interface. You can connect LAN to it. And there are some systems that use Wi-Fi. So your Wi-Fi is your network interface. On your system, you have local firewall. So that local firewall is attached or connected to your network interface. So if there's any rule there, you can create allow and deny rule. So that is what we are going to do now. So in times of cloud, we are creating a network security group. So this network security group now will be attaching it to the NIC of that YAF server that we created. So I'll click on go to resources. I'll click on go to resources. So once I click on go to resources, I'm going to see something. So there are some default NSG here that have been created. So I'll click on settings. Then from settings, you can see inbound security rules and outbound security rule. What does inbound security rule does? You can see inbound security rule is when you want to log into the virtual machine. In the inbound security rule now, if I say I want to allow RDP, and remember RDP port is 3389. So if I want to allow RDP, all I just need to do is to create an inbound port to allow RDP. So that's secure access, because now you are creating secure access to your environment. There are some people that they won't use 3389. They can use another port, so that even if somebody is trying to access their environment, the person will not know the exact port. So that's when you are taking your security to the next level. So here now, we'll click on network interface so that we can attach this NSG to the virtual machine we just created. So now we can see it is not associated with any network interface. Let me open another NSG so that we'll see the difference. Let me just open a new tab. I want us to see another NSG that is attached to a virtual machine. So I'll just click on it here. Let's wait for it to load. So now it has loaded. So I'll just click on home here. So from home, I'll select network security group. So from network security group here, I'll just select any of these network security group that I have here. So let me select Ansible control plane. So I've selected Ansible control plane. Now we can see some rules. Allow SSH. So this SSH, now what it means is that with this rule set, I can SSH to the Linux virtual machine. But if no rule there for SSH, even if I try, it won't go. If I click on network interface here now, we are going to see something. So we are going to see that it is already associated with Ansible control plane. You can associate more than one virtual machine to a network security group. It must not be one. You can associate like five network interface to a network security group, but they have to be on the same virtual network. That's just, if they are not on the same virtual network, there's no way you can attach it. So something cannot be in another virtual network and you want to attach it so it won't work. They have to be on the same virtual network and on the same region. So we'll now go back to this page so we can associate this network interface with YAF server VM that we created. So I'll just click on associate. So once I click on associate, I'm going to see other servers. So if I collapse this network interface now, it will show me. So remember, the machine we created was YAF virtual machine. So we see now cannot be associated with all this. You see, this is YAF app server. I cannot associate all these servers now to this NSG. Why? Because they are not in the same virtual network. If they were in the same virtual network, why not? I'll be able to associate them. So the one I want to associate the NSG to is YAV virtual machine. So this YAV virtual machine now is the NIC for the YAV VM that we just created. I'll just click on it, then click on OK. So wait for it to load. So once it loads, then we will now configure an inbound security rule to allow RDP. So that RDP problem that we're having, that we're trying to remote to the virtual machine and it's not working, we'll now be able to troubleshoot it. We'll now be able to resolve the issue. There are some people that work as support engineers. Customer will call you. I cannot remote to my virtual machine. It might be a very big issue because not being able to remote to your virtual machine is just like you cannot access it. And it's a concern. So as it is now, we have already associated YAV virtual machine to this network interface. So now, from here now, what do we do? I know somebody will be asking, how do I confirm if this network interface belongs to YAV virtual machine? So if you want to confirm, you can come here, go to home. From home, you go to virtual machines. From virtual machines here, you will now select YAV virtual server. So wait for it to load. So YAV virtual server, this is it, YAV virtual machine. So we'll select it. So once we select it, it will load. Wait for it to load. Once it load, since we're after the network settings, now we want to see the network settings. We'll just come down to networking. So anything you want to do, just if you want to see anything particular in the network, you go to networking. So once I collapse networking now, I'll now come to network settings. Let me see the network interface. Once network settings loads, I'm going to see the network interface. So the network interface is YAF virtual machine 179. We can see it, network interface. So this is it, YAF virtual machine 179. So the network security group is YAF server. Why is it here? Because we have associated YAF server NSG to this NIC. If we have not associated it, there's no way to be here. it will be 0. We have not associated application security group to it. You can see it's 0. We didn't configure load balancer, is 0. So all these things, they don't just happen. You have to configure them. If you don't configure it, it won't work. So now we'll now come back to our NSG so that we can create an inbound security group to allow public access to our virtual machine using RDP. So under the NSG, this is the settings. So if you load your NSG page, if you click on overview, everything will just be like this. Everything will be like this. The overview will show you the total number of inbound ports that you have created and the total number of outbound security rule that you have created. So for us to create a new inbound security rule, we'll just collapse settings, then click on inbound security rules. So for inbound security rule now, we can add. So once we add, then we'll create a new one. So for the source, some people can specify, can use a service tag, depends on what you want to do and the configuration you want. When you say source any, it means that from anywhere, from Germany, from UK, from phone, from laptop, from anywhere. So the source port range now, I'll put it asterisk. So what it means is that the where the source is coming from, any port that the source is coming from, destination also any. Then for service now, if you collapse it, you can see the service that you can allow. So you can see different service. You can see LDAP, you can see SMTS, you can see IMAPS, you can see POP, even RDP. You can even see RDP here. Let me look for it. So you can see RDP, you can see HTTP. If I select HTTP now, it will automatically pick port 80. HTTP is port 80. So if I collapse it and select HTTPS, it will pick HTTPS, which is port 443. So if I select RDP now, it will automatically pick RDP, which is port 3389. But if I set it to custom, that means I'll be the one to type the port myself. But I want to allow RDP. So I'll just come down, protocol TCP. So for the action here, you can decide to allow, you can decide to deny. If I say deny, it means that I'm making the situation worse. I don't want anybody to even, if anybody even try to use RDP, it will even deny the person. But if I want to allow it, I'll just click on allow so that anybody, any source, from any point range, from any destination, RDP should be allowed. Then for priority, 100 is the one thing. The way priority work is the lower the number, the higher the authority. The lower the number, the higher the precedence, the higher the authority. So if I specify 100 now for RDP port, what if tomorrow they now employ one CISO in the organization and they say, no, we don't want RDP to be enabled on our servers. We don't want it. We want to be using Azure Bastion to connect to our virtual machine instead of RDP. Go and disable it. If you specify 100, it means that you cannot disable it, because if you are creating network security, if you are creating rules, you cannot delete a rule after you have created it. So the only thing you can do is, if you create a rule now and the rule, maybe for instance, this priority, I set it to 300. Meaning that if I want to deny this rule in future, I can come and create another NSG and set the priority to 290. If I set it to 290 and the action is denied, that means you won't be able to connect to it, even if an existing allow is there. So long as the deny is lower in priority than the allow, then you'll be able to connect. So in that case, I'll just leave the name as allow any RDP inbound. Then I'll click on add. And you can see a warning here. Microsoft is telling you that exposing RDP to the internet, this is only recommended for testing. And what are we doing? We are just testing. If not for tests, I won't even allow RDP just like that, because RDP is more or less like, it's not secured. It's more or less like accessing your environment over the public internet. So the best is to use Azure Bastion, which is secured because it helps you connect your environment over the internet using TLS in a secured way. So now that we have enabled RDP, so let's see if we'll be able to remote to our virtual machine that we created. So I'll come back to this page where we have the app virtual machine. I'll go back to overview so that I can connect the virtual machine again. So I'll click on connect, then select connect. Then two things you can do. You can copy the public IP like this. Once you copy the public IP, you on your system, you search remote desktop. So you select remote desktop. Once you select remote desktop, you paste the IP. Then you click on connect. So we are going to see something now. You see, it's asking me for username and password. But the other time, it was telling me that no connection because we denied public access. So you can see how you can secure network traffic. So you can deny, you can allow, you can use network security group. Our key takeaway from this class should be that with network security group, you can create inbound and outbound rules. If you say inbound, that means if somebody is trying to come into your virtual machine using RDP, allow. If it's outbound, that means if from your virtual machine you want to go out using RDP port, it should allow you. But we are not doing outbound, we're only doing inbound so that we can come in to the virtual machine. So inbound is to bring you in, while outbound is to take you out. So now, what name did we give our virtual machine? We gave it YAF. The admin name was YAF admin. Admin. So YAF admin was the name of the virtual machine. Let me put the password. So YAF admin, sorry, was the name of was the local admin. So if I click on OK now, let's see. So it's asking me yes or no. So once I click on yes now, I log into the virtual machine. So you can see that a virtual machine is like an online computer that you can have access to from anywhere. So it will load. So this is a virtual machine now. We created a virtual machine and we enable secure network traffic to that virtual machine. Remember, when we created the virtual machine, we were unable to RDP to it until we went to create a network security group. And after creating the network security group, we attached the network security group with the network interface card of this virtual machine. Then we now created an inbound port, inbound rule for RDP, which is 3389. So we can see this is our virtual machine. We have connected to it. So it's just like your normal Windows server. This is how server is. Servers is used to host application. It's used for different purpose. So that is just what we want to do for today. Just creating secured access to resources in Microsoft Azure. So that's just it. First thing, we created a virtual machine. After creating the virtual machine, just like this, let me do a recap. We created this virtual machine, which is the YAF virtual machine. So to create a virtual machine, you just come to the Azure portal, search virtual machine, then you search for virtual machine like this. Once you search for virtual machine, you wait for it to load. Once it loads, you click on create, then you select virtual machine. Once you select virtual machine, you put in the necessary informations like the name, the admin, username, and password. So now it's going to load. You select your resource group just like this. You have cloud computing. Then you give it a name. The virtual machine can be maybe you have VM. Then the availability zone, you can say no infrastructure redundancy. Windows Server, this is where we select operating system. It's not only Windows Server VM that you can create. You can create Ubuntu, you can create Red Hat Linux, you can create any virtual machine, you can create Debian. You can even create Windows Server 2025, that is the latest. You can create Windows 11. So now, the admin username and password that I entered, this is how you set it. If you say YAF admin is the username, that means if you want to sign into the virtual machine, you need to provide this admin account. That's the account that you can use to sign in. So that is to create a virtual machine. When we're creating it for public inbound port, we say none. That's why. So if you say none for public inbound port, it means that all traffic from the internet will be blocked by default. And that was what we did. We blocked all traffic from the internet so that if somebody is trying to access the virtual machine from the internet, it will be blocked. you won't be able to access it until the admin allows it. And that is secure network, because it can be just in time. Only when you need it, you allow it. When you don't need it, you disable it. You may just allow RDP for maybe 1 hour. After 1 hour, you go and disable it. That is why it's secure network traffic. So I will just close this guy because we're not going to create a virtual machine again, but I'm just showing us what we did. So from here now, you can come to after creating a virtual machine, we now created a network security group. So after creating a network security group, let's just see the network security group we created, which is YAF NSG. We created YAF NSG. After creating YAF NSG, then we now went to network interface, because the network interface will tell you which network interface is connected to the network security group. So network security group can just be there doing nothing. You must associate it with a network interface before it will work. Let's note that network security group is just like the firewall on our system. If you search for firewall on your system, you will see different rules. If I search for firewall here now, because this is a physical system. So if I click on firewall, you are going to see different rules here on my firewall here. So RDP is just like your firewall in the cloud. It's just like your local firewall in the cloud. So if I click on inbound rule, you are going to see different inbound rule here, like Docker desktop backend, blah blah blah, HNS connect on. So you see different allow. So this one now, profile enabled, yes, allow. So you can see them. You can see them. So just like the way you have your Windows Defender feature on your system. So this guy now is just like that. So you can allow, you can deny, but this one is more advanced, because here you can decide to allow any port like SSH. You can want to allow HTTP. If I want to host a web server if I want to host a web server on this VM, I need to allow HTTPS, because if I don't allow HTTPS, that means people from the public will not be able to access that website that is hosted on that virtual machine. So that's just it. So thank you very much. I'm going to be ending the class for today. I hope we enjoyed the section. Thank you very much. So any question? Anybody with any question before we go?